Morning. Just going to put on video a little bit of a teaching on pushing through in prayer and sort of understanding some of the dynamics that happen that may either stop us or the little areas that we need to break through to push that little further in prayer for a breakthrough. But of course, prayer it's not a works thing, but nonetheless, there's still principles in spiritual and natural life, right? There's things where you've got to go a little bit beyond what you know if you want to get or experience a little bit more than what you've currently got. And it's exactly the same in the realm of prayer. So if you know, there's some classic passages of scripture that I've taught on prayer for many, many years. And every time I look at them, even today, God opens up something new. They're just timeless principles. This morning, I just want to look quickly at just a couple. And it really is quickly because these are, any passage of scripture is deep. You can just keep digging and digging. There's layers upon layers of spiritual truth and spiritual reality. So we are really just going to skim the surface of a little bit of a story. And it's the story of Esau. Esau's in it. Jacob wrestling with the angel of the Lord. And again, a lot of theologians will get hung up on whether it was an angel or whether it was the manifestation of God or what it was. But that's not actually the point today. The point is that Jacob was wrestling with something divine. Something that it doesn't matter what your concept of divine and supernatural is. If I'm physically wrestling with something that is divine, it's not really a wrestle. It's not really a fair contest. You know, I'm done. I'm in trouble, right? But a little bit of backdrop to the story. So Jacob has fled his home country and his homeland because basically he did dodgy dealings with his brother Esau, and he stole birthrights and inheritances and blah 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 blah. And so he ran away to preserve his own life. And of course he's been away for a long time. So now he's got wives and children, flocks, stocks. God's really blessed him. His life's amazing. But now it's time to come back. And as he starts the journey back, he hears that his brother Esau is coming towards him with 400 trained men. Now Jacob doesn't have an army with him, he has family. And I'm sure a few blokes that can fight, but he basically has family and he has flocks and herds. So, of course, it's natural that he would be afraid and he would think that Esau is coming back to, you know, extract revenge on him for past things done and all that sort of stuff. That's the assumption. If you read through the story, you know the assumption was wrong, as assumptions often are. Better to get the facts than to make an assumption. But anyway, because of this, Jacob begins to split up his herds and he begins to send them forward almost as gifts to try and appease Esau. And he sends eventually he sends everyone across this river except himself, right? And so we're in Genesis 32, verse 22, right? So he arose that night and took his wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and he crossed over the ford of Jabbok. And he took them, and he sent them over the brook, and he sent over what he had. And now verse 24 is where it starts to get interesting and where some of the principles begin to be outlined here, right? It says, then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Now, one of the easiest and most clear principles of prayer anywhere in the Bible is removing whatever the distractions are. The television, friends, family, whatever. Removing the distractions, going away to somewhere all by yourself, turning the cell phone off. Don't just have it on silent. Turn it off. Have the worship music on, but deal with the distractions. And it's interesting to know that once Jacob had dealt with the distractions, a man wrestled with him. So it's like God is waiting for us to give the space in our life and time, and as soon as we do that, he begins to respond. Because it doesn't say that Jacob initiated the wrestle. It didn't say that Jacob was now alone and so he got on his face and began to seek the Lord God. It doesn't say anything like that. It just says that once the distractions were sent and once the distractions were removed, then an angel from heaven, a man, appeared and wrestled with him. And I do think there's a principle there that once you make that deliberate choice, no, I'm going to remove the distractions, I'm going to get serious about seeking God, I think God sees that, and I think often God begins to respond to that. And I think it's when you deliberately choose to engage with God, he's more than ready to engage with us because he loves us more than we love him, and he wants to speak to us more than we want to speak to him. So it's just interesting to note, once the distractions are gone, then a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. So it started, right? So it says, he arose that night and he sent the servants away and his wives and all that sort of stuff. And then the man wrestles with him until the breaking of the day. So whatever happens next happens over the entire night. I'm not going to put times to it, but over the entire night, right? And so he wrestled until the breaking of day. Now, as I said earlier, if something divine was to step into this room right now and start wrestling with me, especially if it was something from heaven, if it was something from demonic, it's came into the wrong house because it's stuffed. But if it's something from heaven, something divine from heaven, an angel of God or a manifestation of the presence of God, and I start to actually wrestle with it, there's no contest there. I'm actually the fool, and I'm going to get done over pretty quickly. You know, I'm going to triumph over all of the demonic stuff, but something heavenly, I'm done, and I'm happily done. Like, I'm happily done because I know it'll be good. I know it'll be great. Whatever God does with you know, taking me out will be awesome. So it's good. But he wrestles with him until the breaking of the day, right? And now when he, that is the angel, when the angel of God saw that he did not prevail against him, against Jacob, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. Now, I've never had any major breaks. I've broken hands a couple of times. You know, I've never broken a big bone, a leg or an arm, or I did break an arm once. But whenever you bust something significant, or you dislocate a shoulder or something like that, then it hurts, right? It really hurts. And here it says clearly that the angel of the Lord struck the socket of his hip and basically dislocated the socket of his hip. Now, it's never happened to me, but I guarantee you that hurts. That hurts. But in the midst of the pain, Jacob doesn't get distracted again. He doesn't stop the wrestle, and he doesn't say, okay, I've had enough. That hurts. That was a good shot, man. He's actually serious about this now. He's serious about this wrestle. And see, sometimes we get engaged in prayer. We're speaking in tongues, we're worshiping, we're doing all the things that we need to do and that we know to do. But we get distracted, or we get tired, or we get a little bit frustrated because God's not answering. You know, you might have thought, I'm going to pray all night, and then it gets to 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and you're just tired. You've had a coffee, it's not working, and so. I'm just going to lie down. I'm just going to lay down, close my eyes and worship, and then you drift off to sleep, right? Whatever happens. And I'm not talking about praying all night, but I'm just talking about the principle of going past your comfort level. The socket of his hip was out of joint while he wrestled. It doesn't say he stopped wrestling. He actually continued to wrestle. Learn to go beyond whatever it is you know, whatever the point you normally stop, whether it be prayer, worship, or the word, whatever the point is you normally stop, go beyond that, because there'll be something on the other side of that point that you've never experienced before, because you've never gone past that point before. So the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And then verse 26, and then he, the angel of the Lord, said, let me go, for the day breaks. But Jacob said, no, I will not let you go unless you bless me. How's that for attitude? That's attitude, isn't it? God, I'm here. We're doing business today. We're doing business today. We're getting some work done, and there's going to be some answers come. There's going to be some blessing flow. I'm not designating what the blessing is or what the answers are, but I'm in this. I'm in this, and God, there's a seriousness in my heart here. So if you're not coming to me today, God, I'm going to you. That's great. There's an attitude in prayer. See, who knows that's more than a 5-minute attitude in prayer? It's more than sort of a morning devotion thing. That's the seriousness of, well, I've been praying for 4 hours, and I think we're on the edge of something, but nothing's coming. So if it takes another 4, I'm in. And you better know I'm coming. Great attitude. Awesome. It's going to take Jacob somewhere. And he says, I'm not going to let you go unless you bless me. Too much prayer is token. Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I love you. God, just bless my friends, bless my family. God, just pour out your spirit on my church. Amen. Well, that's lovely, and God can answer that, right? It's not saying that's not good prayer, but I'm saying there's a depth to prayer, and there's some maturity in prayer that needs to come in lives for breakthrough. And this is the attitude that we're beginning to see here in Jacob, right? So I will not let you go unless you bless me. Verse 27 is interesting, in verse 28. So he said to him, what is your name? He says, Jacob. And he says, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. It's interesting because Old Testament, or Bible full stop actually, names were incredibly important. And still in some cultures today, names are really important. But in many cultures, a name's just a name. My name's Mark. My middle name's David. I know that David means mighty man of God. But, you know, we don't really name our children. Some Christians do, I suppose, but average Joe, we don't really name, we might name them after family members or whatnot. But a name is sort of just a name these days to many cultures. But Jacob actually means supplanter, a liar, deceiver, cheat, fraud. That's actually what it means. And that's exactly what he did with his brother Esau. That's why he thinks Esau's coming to deal with him, you know. But in this encounter with God, see, I believe, it's not written there, but I believe that Jacob's motivation was fear here because Esau is coming. And the blessing that Jacob wants is an answer to this solution with his brother. That's the assumption I have. It doesn't say it in the text. I think it's a reasonable assumption. But the angel says, what's your name? And he confesses who he is. My name's Jacob. I'm a liar. I'm a supplanter. I'm a thief. I'm a cheat. I'm a fraud. He confesses his name. He lets God know who he is. And God says, well, okay, you're no longer that guy. You're now Israel, which means blessed with God, which means having seen God, encountered God. And so it's an interesting thing that often we go to prayer because there's an issue on the outside of us. There's a problem on the outside of us. But often when we get into the serious points of prayer, God's actually not interested with the issue on the outside of us. He's interested with the issues on the inside of us. And in this instance, this wrestle, this encounter, ended up with a changed Jacob. Jacob becomes Israel. And I think sometimes those real deep character changes, they don't come without a wrestle. Because we've got patterns and we've got things and hurts and wounds and habits and emotions stuck on the inside of us, and they've been there for so long. They're habits, they're part of who we are. But it's that deep wrestle with God where we go through the pain of acknowledgement, where we go through the pain of recognition, whatever, and we finally just begin to confess and get open with God. Well, this is actually how I am. I'm really struggling with it. I don't know what to do about it. And God says, well, I do. And so God's not interested in that external issue that's causing Jacob to pray. He wants to touch Jacob's heart and change him from Jacob to Israel, someone who's blessed by God. I think that alone is a great motivation to go deeper and further in prayer because, yep, I want to be a different person. I have to be a different person. If God's going to do different things through me, and if I'm going to see things differently, and if God's going to use me in bigger, better ways, then God needs to deal with issues in my heart, full stop. And there's not a single Christian on the planet that can honestly say that's not true of them. So learn to go a little bit beyond what you know and go from being Jacob to Israel. So he says, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and men and prevailed. And then Jacob asked, saying, you know, what is your name? And he said, why do you ask that? It's none of your business. And he blessed him there, right? And then verse 30, so Jacob called the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And then 31, just as he crossed over Peniel, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip. So again, the change in the encounter with God, it was a permanent mark upon Jacob, who is now Israel. And it says, says it, and it's just a beautiful sort of picture of the wrestle all night into the day, and now the sun rose on him. There was a different light that came. There was a different Jacob in place. The sun had arisen upon him, and there was a new light in Jacob, who is now Israel. But guess what? He limped for the rest of his life. And, I think we need to understand that when God, faithful are the wounds of a friend. So when God strikes us or when God challenges us in ways that are uncomfortable and a little bit perhaps painful, and if I have to limp for the rest of my life, but the encounter has changed my life, well, then I'll limp. And the limp's a great legacy because the limp's a constant testimony and the limp's a constant reminder of what God did on that day. And I walked into a new day, a new way, literally. The sun rose on me. It was the dawning of a new day and I walked with a limp. So I walked in a new way. I think doesn't everyone want to walk a new way? I do. I don't think it's necessarily feasible to walk a new way every day, but I think there's times and seasons in God. And here with Jacob, you just see this principle of pushing through past the pain point, getting honest and open with God, allowing him to deal with your character, and then limping for the rest of your life because you've been changed permanently. I'm in. Oh, dear God, I'm in. Now let's just go to another couple of passages which we'll touch on much simpler than we did there. But go to the book of Daniel. So in the book of Daniel, there's two significant times where Daniel prays. It's Daniel chapter 9 and Daniel chapter 10. They run together, but they're two separate incidences. So Daniel chapter 9 verse 1, in the first year of death, but it's the same principle now. It's the principle of going beyond for breakthrough and not stopping at a certain point where you'll miss your blessing and you'll miss your breakthrough. And I think sometimes we pray to this point, and because we're accustomed to stopping there, we stop there and we don't go past that, and our blessing, our victory is just on the other side of that, and we miss out. I think it happens more than we would acknowledge, right? So Daniel chapter 9, verse 1, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, I love these names in the Old Testament, of the lineage of the Medes, who was named king, in the first year of this book, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of the years specified by the word of the Lord through Jeremiah the prophet. So he's reading previous prophecies and he's understanding that now's the time for something to happen. So number of years specified by the word of the Lord through Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years of desolation in the desolations of Jerusalem. So now's the time for something to happen according to what Daniel understands from past prophecy. So it says, verse 3, I set my face towards the Lord my God to make requests and supplications with prayer, fasting, sackcloth and ashes. And then the next chunk of it, he goes through confessing the sins of the country and all that sort of stuff, which is great. But we're not touching on that today. But nonetheless, he understands that something should be happening. So now he's going to set himself to prayer to make it happen. I like that principle. Verse 20. Now, while I was speaking, praying, and confessing the sins of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God, yes, while I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, reached me about the time of the evening offering. And he informed and talked to me, and he said, "O Daniel, I have now come forth to give you skill to understand," right? So Daniel thought he understood something and had set his heart to pray, but now when God answers, sends an angel, the angel says, Daniel, I'll help you really understand. I'll help you see this clearer. And he says, verse 23, he says to Daniel, he says, at the beginning of your supplication, the command went out, and I have come to tell you. That's encouraging, because here's the deal. Once the instant I make that decision to choose to pray, to seek God, the answer's on the way. The answer's on. Now, I'm not going to go through more of that answer because that's not, again, the point of what I'm talking about now. But here's a principle. The principle is you set your heart to really seek God. You can be assured of this one thing. The answer's on the way. The deal is, will you still be praying for it to come? Or will you be pushing past your points? Let's go now to Daniel chapter 10, right? So the answer comes and the angel begins to explain and give Daniel understanding. But let's go to chapter 10. Same principle again, right? In the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. The message was true, but the appointed time was long. And he understood the message, and he had understanding of the vision. See, that understanding of visions is coming even from that last time of prayer where he thought he understood, but the angel came to help him understood. So now Daniel sees things clearer, carries over into this. But again, the point here, the message was true, but the appointed time was long. So it's a similar concept. He's read from the scriptures in the past, the prophecies that he got. Now, it's now time for God to be doing this. This is what this says. I see it. I understand it clearly now because the angel has helped me understand it. This is when it should be happening. Now, I do believe that sometimes we have an understanding and a comprehension and knowledge that by this point in my life, these things should be happening. Or maybe it's a genuine prophecy from the past. It hasn't come to pass, but you really believe in your heart that now is the season for that to happen. Well, you can't just sit back and wait for the promise of God to happen. Sometimes it does, but there's other promises and words of God that are actually connected to our commitment to pray. It's us co-laboring with God. We can't make God do things, but we co-labor with God, as Bill Johnson often says, and many others. I agree with the principle. And so the appointed time is now, but it's delayed. So I'm going to pray about it, and we're going to fix this because it should be happening right now. That's what Daniel says. And so in verse 2, it says, "In those days I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant food, no meat or wine came to my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled." So he's prayed and fasted for 21 days, 3 full weeks. Now it says, now on the 24th day of the first month. So he's gone 24 days of prayer and fasting, seeking God. Now, I'm not saying a time's important here, right? It's the attitudinal thing that I'm pointing to, not the time. I'm not saying you have to pray 21 days, although if you feel to, do it. I'm not saying you have to fast any set length of time, but the biblical example's there. If you want to, do it. So now jump down to verse 10. And it says, suddenly. So it's if you've been like Daniel now, you've been praying and fasting for 21 or 24 days, anything that happens next is a suddenly, because it didn't happen on the first day or the second day or the third day. We're now on the 24th day of the first month, 21 days into a fast. Suddenly, a hand touched me, which made me tremble on my knees and on the palm of my hands. And he said to me, "O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak to you and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you." And while he was speaking there, I stood trembling. And here's a kicker here, right? Verse 12. Then he said to me, "Do not fear, Daniel. From the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I've come because of your words." But guess what? From the first day he was sent. Verse 13, what's the delay? "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. And behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I'd been left alone there with the kings of Persia." So the prince of the kingdom of Persia, and then the kings of Persia. So, principle, without getting too spooky or too weird. I'm praying down here, trusting God for breakthrough, for blessing, to do something. I've set my heart to pray, fast, seek God. And even though I might just be here in my kitchen, at my table, in your bedroom, wherever it is you do that sort of stuff, as soon as you begin to pray, there is a movement in the heavens, in the spirit realm. There's a movement. And your prayer has actually caused conflict. Your prayer has caused conflict in the heavens, and the angel has come to answer your prayer. But the devil, the prince of Persia, and then the kings of Persia have come to support the prince of Persia. There is literally a war going on somewhere in the heavens and somewhere in the spiritual realm, and you've caused it because you decided to get on your face and pray. How good is that? I love the principle of that, right? That we're going to pray down here, and it's going to stir things in the heavens, and it's going to cause a clash of kingdoms, and it's going to cause a conflict that ultimately the workers and the spirits that are engaged with God win. But nonetheless, the conflict's got to be had. The conflict's got to be had, because blessing's got to come and darkness wants to resist. So there's going to have to be a battle. And even though I'm just here on the earth, in my bedroom or in the hotel or wherever it is you are, out in the desert somewhere praying, even though I'm here on the earth, I'm actually a vital part of that battle. I'm a vital part, and I'm peace in that conflict. And if I don't continue my course until that breakthrough comes, then the battle doesn't get won. It's not coincidence that Daniel was praying and fasting for 21 days and that in the angelic world, the victory didn't come until the 21st day. That's not coincidence. That's not coincidence. If you think it's coincidence, you're loony. That's principles. That's principles. That's cause and effect, man. That's cause and effect. So here's a question. What if Daniel had given up on day 20? What if he had given up on day 7? Wouldn't have happened. Victory wouldn't have come. End of story. Victory wouldn't have come. So I've got to learn the principles. Genesis 32, I've got to go through the pain. I've got to allow the character change to come. I've got to get in there, and I've got to push, and I've got to push, and I've got to push, and I've got to understand that as soon as I set myself to pray, the answer's on the way. The answer's on the way. I've got to believe it. I've got to expect it. But then I've got to understand that there's a time where I need to go beyond what I know. And if you've fasted a few days here and there, great. Why don't you slot a 3-day one in this week? 3 days. Find a space. If you've done 3 days before, why don't you stretch the boundaries? Go for 5 or for 7. If you've got a medical condition or you want to check with a doctor, check with a doctor. Up to you. But if you've done a 14-day fast but never done a 21-day one, why don't you stick a 21-day in? If you've got things that need to break through, if you've got areas in your life, why don't you just, whatever it is that you know, if you pray for an hour a day, why don't you pray for 2? Slot something in, change something, amp something up a little bit, because it's just on the other side of that breakthrough where a significant blessing will come. And the thing is that anything new to you is going to come outside of your current framework of reference. And so you might have to do something different or something to a little bit greater degree to access that. So why not do it? Why not do it? Why don't you get into a pattern of fasting every second day? Just make it a pattern, a habit of your life. Do it for a month. Fast every second day for a month or something. But it's fast and pray, right? You got to pray. But again, the principles out of those passages, and we really did very, very lightly touch on the passages in Daniel. But the principles are sound, and it's even like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He's in the Garden of Gethsemane. The disciples are sleeping. He goes a little bit further. It says very clearly in one of the accounts, I think Luke's account, it says he went a little bit further. Yeah, it was a physical distance. He came back, he checked on the disciples, they were sleeping because their eyelids were heavy. He wakes them up and says, come on, can't you watch and pray for an hour? Can't you do it for an hour? And he goes back over there and prays, and then he comes back over and they're sleeping again. And the second time he doesn't wake them up, and they miss out on some really good stuff in the garden, because then Jesus goes away. Again, he goes a little bit further. He prays until his sweat becomes drops of blood. And it says that an angel appears from heaven and ministers to him. So you can actually say, in a summary, there's a little revival happening on there. A piece of heaven has come down. Angels are ministering to Jesus physically right there, just over there they're doing it. And just over here, the guys that would have been excited and encouraged about seeing it and being part of it, they're asleep and they miss the moment. I don't want to miss any moments. I've probably missed more than enough moments I've got in my life, and I don't want to miss any more moments. So, I don't want to be sleeping when there's angelic visitation over there, or when there's a little revival over there, there's a move of God over there. I don't want to be sleeping over here because I couldn't stir myself up to pray an extra hour. And see, again, one of the principles there is when Jesus came back the first time, he woke them up. When he came back the second time, he didn't wake them up, because there is actually an expectation that we'll stir ourselves. So anyway, just some thoughts, some little thoughts. The M1 there with the Gospels, that was just a tack on that, again, needs further explanation and a little bit more depth to delve into it. But I trust out of the Genesis and the Daniel passages, there's a couple of real keys there for pushing a little bit further than to get something that you've never had before. Amen. And I'm, as a Christian, you're a Christian, I'm in. I need things. I need new things. I need things breaking through in my life and around me and flowing out from me. I need things that I don't have right now. And to get them, I'm going to have to do things that I haven't done before, or things that I don't do consistently. So just a few little encouragements. It's always a combination of encouragement and challenge. But I think they're two healthy things. When the combination of encouragement and challenge comes, if you just get the challenge without the encouragement, there's not a lot of motivation in that always. But if you get the challenge with the encouragement and with the blessing, and you can see something on the other side of the fence, then it sort of helps motivate us to move a little bit more than we have before. But anyway, if you've known me for a long time, you've sort of heard those types of teachings before. The reason I'm putting it down on video is we're building a new team here in Laverton, and some of this stuff is new. Hopefully it's good, and hopefully it's challenging for them. So I'm just throwing some of it out in video, so it's all there for different ones to have a look at and pull apart and hopefully apply the principles. Bless you all. Have an absolutely awesome day, and pray in a new way. Limp if you need to for the rest of your life. It's a great way to walk. See ya.